Broadcasting to you on WNN 1470 AM and TrentoVision.tv from the world's leading think tank laboratory, buried deep in an undisclosed building in hostile territory where evil and corruption is exposed. You're about to enter the Tom Trento Show.
Now order, all hands Magna battle station.
Tom Trento heads United West, a group that says it defends Western civilization against the onslaught of Islam.
How you like that new opening, everybody? That's pretty wild.
Yeah,
Three
it's really
cheers.
good. Three cheers.
That's Mark and Dave put that together. I like it.
Yeah, it works.
Just,
It works.
you know,
That's happening. Yeah,
I like to stay in the background. I don't like the
Also,
You're such a shy guy.
he's such
Kinda
a
a little
shy
shy,
man.
kinda
He
pushes me out there.
You got to get out more, Tom.
But anyway, July 2, couple of minutes after 5 o'clock. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to TrentoVision.tv and WNN 1470. We got a wild show for you today because we have an individual. What's that? Oh, hang on. Theresa May is on the line, and she's telling me our guest's presence is not conducive to the public good. Sorry, Pamela Geller, we can't have you on our show, okay? I know she's not here right yet, but we will have her in a little bit. We don't give a damn what Theresa May, some bloke in the UK, says. Pamela Geller will be on our show in just a few minutes. And yes, it isn't a joke. It really happened. An American who is not a terrorist,
Not on the terrorist
not
watch
on the watch
list.
list, not on the no-fly list, not on the no-travel list, was denied entry into the country that gave us. Mark, remember last September we were in D.C., we went to the National Archives,
Yes.
and they had the Magna Carta on display?
Yes.
That country that gave us the fundamental principles from which we developed our Constitution of liberty, freedom, equality, said no to an American citizen because of, I don't know. We're going to let her tell us.
Well,
Because
Imam,
she's
what
too
is she?
cute.
Imam, what is she?
Too cute.
She is a she-devil, this woman, Pamela Geller. If I owned a country, I would not let her in my country either.
Well,
you
you
own
do
the
own the country.
You do. You guys own
That's
the
the point.
UK.
We own the politicians, not the whole
Okay.
country.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. But methinks you haven't heard the last of her in this issue,
I
or the
don't-
last of us on this issue.
I don't think she's going to be quiet on this.
Hey, folks, this is critically important. This is the beginning of the end of what America is all about, when Americans can't freely travel between friendly nations that are joined together in intelligence, law enforcement, and the military in fighting the Islamic Jihad. Anyway, good afternoon. Hi, CJ. How are you?
Hi, swell.
Good. I'm going to get aggravated, I think, on this show. Mark, you doing good?
Well, you know,
Okay.
the intro cheered me up a little bit.
You like that intro? And Imam Abdullah, never mind. We don't want to hear from you right now. Okay, you stay over there. We'll talk to you in a little bit. Though some folks are glad to have you back. Yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, July 1st, Monday. What did we do yesterday?
What did
Andy
we do?
Boston.
We
Yes,
had
of
Andy
course.
Boston. We talked about Egypt.
I
Talked
wanna-
about Tommy Robinson in London.
We're going to ask Pamela some of the same questions on the whole Egyptian
We had Lady
mess.
Gaga waving the flag.
Lady Gaga. And then tomorrow, folks, Wednesday, we have an atheist from Canada coming on to defend atheism, particularly the state of Florida just allowed atheists up in Stark, Florida, a very conservative part of the state, allowed atheists to put up a monument. And we're going to talk to Darren Butsey out of Canada, who thinks anybody that has any belief in any religion is a lunatic, basically. That's tomorrow's show.
It's kind of funny that it's in Stark,
It's in
actually, because
Stark.
when I first heard that, I thought it was going to be an atheist monument to the people who were executed for crimes in the state
Isn't
of
there a
Florida.
big prison in Stark?
Old
That's where the
Sparky.
chair is.
Old Sparky.
Yep.
And then on Thursday, our special, our Independence Day, 4th of July special. We're going to have a gentleman from Sarasota who's done a lot of work, former military veteran, a lot of work on putting a memorial together for many of our fallen heroes. And we're going to take a look at that and some other special stuff on 4th of July. Stay away from the fireworks. But remember, Tea Party community, hi everybody. You our guest Pamela. You guys love Pamela. Bonnie over at Bare Naked Islam. Please go to her website, barenakedislam.com, teapartycommunity.com. Watch Steve and Brian 6 to 9 every morning. Holly Meredith, just before us, 4 to 5, does a great job. And then we're here at 5 o'clock every day. Be sure to watch our archives. And if you're so inclined, you can
Donate.
securely.
And
Go
listen
to-
to us on iHeartRadio also.
Follow us on Twitter at The United West. Subscribe at The United West. Thank all of you for joining our listening and viewing audience. And Mark and I, over the weekend, were at the Aaron Vaughn Memorial Swim, second annual Memorial Swim. And CJ.
Frog man.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah. Can you turn around, or are you locked into that seat?
Hold on.
Hold on. See the back of it. There it is, the Aaron Vaughn Memorial logo.
Oh, nice.
Couple of hundred people at the swim, and
Mark, did you do the swim?
Yeah, I did the
Yeah,
hot
he did the
tub-
hot
Mark
tub.
The hot tub.
we did
The hot tub relay.
Hot tub
the hot
relay.
tub relay. But seriously, I mean, we could not move without somebody saying, "Hey, we love your show. Hey, we're watching the show," or "Hey, where's Imam Abdullah?" He was off last week,
Yeah.
so folks were even looking for the Imam. But part of the reason
Did they have guns?
no, none of that place. It was all just military veterans and police and rednecks. So there were no guns at that place. One of the reasons why more and more people are watching the show and sending us phenomenal letters is because of the quality caliber of the guests we have who are cutting edge newsmakers. And are we ready for our guest right
absolutely
now?
ready.
Out of New York, hey, Pamela, what's going on?
Everything.
Everything.
Good to see you. You made our hearts skip a couple of beats when we heard about your dilemma over the pond. We're glad you're back home safe and sound. And we need you to tell this story, and we need to make some points of application, and we need to shake up America.
Well,
So
can I say a real
Sure,
quick
yeah.
question?
go.
I
speak of
just want a clarification. Are you banned from ever entering the UK or just for this one event?
I'm born from the UK. I can apparently appeal in 3 to 5 years.
In 3 to 5 years. And so what egregious violation did you do? Because usually to get banned from the country, you had to do something like a terrorist. So what did you actually do? Because obviously you did something.
Froze up.
We froze up. Okay.
Okay.
We'll call
Well, we'll
back.
get her back.
Okay.
And the gremlins are here, but look, if Pamela can overcome the nitwits in London, we can overcome the gremlins. Basically, I did not know, Mark, that she was banned
I didn't. That's where I wanted to clarify.
That's why he asked. Yeah.
ever.
Because for 3 years. Because it's not just like you're not allowed to go in there for this one event. She's banned forever. I mean, for the next 3 years, obviously.
All right, well, for the new viewers and
we have her
listeners,
back now. She's back.
for our new viewers and listeners, Pamela Geller runs a phenomenal blog, Atlas Shrugs, and has been on the cutting edge of fighting the jihad in the United States of America. Took the leadership role in stopping, shutting down, devastating Imam Faisal Raouf's efforts to build a mosque at Ground Zero. It sounds so crazy. So you've seen her on Fox, you've seen her on CNN, all the shows. She is with us now. Pamela, welcome back. Tell us about your adventure. Why were you going over there? What happened? Walk us through every minute. We want to feel what you felt and be in a position to do something about this.
Well, as you know, I have colleagues in Europe, Tommy Robinson and Kevin Carroll. They're the leaders of the English Defense League. They're also SION, board members of the President's Council. SION is Stop Islamization of Nations, which is a worldwide network fighting the imposition of Sharia, which obviously this is an egregious case of. And so we were going over to the UK, Robert Spencer and I were going over to the UK to lay a wreath of the Stars and Stripes at the site of the grisly jihadi beheading of a young soldier and a young dad, Lee Rigby. That was it. They, of course, the media blew it up into a big march, into a big speech. No, we were merely laying a wreath. And I received this letter from the Britannic Majesty Service telling me that I was barred from the UK because I had said that Al-Qaeda is a manifestation of devout Islam. By the way, Al-Qaeda is a manifestation of devout Islam. I didn't say it, they have said it. And I think people need to understand that this is not about Mr. Spencer or myself. It's about whether we still have freedom of speech, or is criticism of Islam and jihad is now against the law. Understand that the British authorities let hate preachers in, let preachers in who espouse jihad. For example, Muhammad al-Arifi was just there. He has advocated Jew hatred and wife beating, and he has said, quote, devotion to jihad for the sake of Allah and the desire to shed blood and to smash skulls and to sever limbs for the sake of Allah and in defense of his religion is undoubtedly an honor for the believer. He said that. He was there in June in London. So you can talk about jihad just as long as you're supporting it or promoting it or advancing it. No, but this is the reality. People can say whatever they want. Let us look at the thing for what it is. Aristotle said A is A. This is what happened. And this is part of a larger effort, as you know, to silence all critics of jihad, which is in accordance with the Sharia. It's in accordance with the blasphemy laws. I have never committed a crime. I have never been arrested. I am not on trial for hate speech, and I was banned. And I do think it's shocking. I also think it's shocking that the American government has said nothing. You can't tell me that these things are not spoken about or cleared with their American counterparts. This is our number one ally in Europe. So I think it's most egregious and scary because the banning of free speech is the road to tyranny. Now, I will tell you that, of course, this is not, it doesn't end here. It begins here. We're raising money right now.
Wait, hang on. We're going to take this in pieces. It's 13 minutes after 5 o'clock on Tuesday, July 2nd. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. We have our good friend Pamela Geller out of New York as our guest. A couple of days ago, I think it was the 26th. Was that the date, Pamela, the 26th of June?
We were scheduled to leave the 28th. We got word the morning of the 27th.
Okay, and she was, Pamela, a free speech activist. If you want a good title to understand the comprehensive work that Pamela Geller does, she's a free speech activist fighting against Islamic jihad, which is trying to suppress street speech, free speech. Now, walk us through the moments. Were you told you couldn't go when you were still in the States, or did you get all the way over there and were told over there you can't go through customs?
Well, thankfully, we were told before we were going to leave, which I am grateful for because it's, as you know, enormously expensive. We did think that something might happen because, as you know, and you see it here in America, there is a small cabal, a very influential and powerful group of leftists and Islamic supremacists. Here in America, it's CARE, the Council of American Islamic Relation, a Hamas group, a Muslim Brotherhood group, ISNA, another Muslim Brotherhood group. Over there, it's this group, it's a leftist Islamic supremacist group called Hope Not Hate that had started a petition. We have no idea how many signatures they got. They said 25,000. but you never saw the list. They just said it. Now, you know, when you sign a petition, it takes you to the page where all the signatures are. You never saw that. They just said it, and they said they got it over 3 days, which we know is a complete lie. We've asked them repeatedly for the list, and they repeatedly have not produced it. They based their petition on saying that we call Muslims savages. Now, you know we never did.
Right.
Here is the ad they're basing it on. And as you can see, there is no Islam and there is no Muslim in here. Jihad is in here, and we stand behind that. One only has to watch the beheading of a priest in Syria last week when Obama-backed jihadists attacked a Christian town, and they are beheading a priest who tried to help the nuns, and there's a huge crowd there, and they're chanting Allahu Akbar. That is savagery.
Absolute savagery.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we talked about that the other day.
And let's say,
Absolute
for
savagery.
argument's sake, that you actually ever did say Muslims were savages. Would that be a reason
what?
to be banned from the
kill you.
United Kingdom?
No, but the point I'm trying to make is that the whole campaign is based on fabrications and lies. And understand something. This was the #1 story in the UK. It was the front page of every newspaper, and not one media outlet, not one, had me on. Not one. They had my detractors, they had my defamers, they had the libelists, they had the liars on to spew their fabrications, of course. But why not have me on? I mean, if I'm such a racist, Islamophobic, anti-Muslim bigot, why not have me on and show the world, expose
Yeah,
me
you'd
for the
be a real
racist,
catch.
Islamophobic, anti-Muslim bigot I am? But they wouldn't, because every time they have me on, rational people agree with me, and I get another whatever, X number of thousands of followers and members and supporters. So they won't have me on, and this too is a form of the Sharia. This too is a form of the blacklisting. And mind you, we absolutely have been blacklisted. Robert, myself, Ibn Warwick, Wafa Sultan. This is
Michael
part
Savage.
of self-enforcing the Sharia.
Michael Savage, Kurt Wilders.
Yeah,
The
they've
list
been
goes-
banned from the UK. How did they deliver this letter to you?
UPS.
Oh,
Came like
UPS.
this. It was a UPS from the British consulate, and then inside was this pretty little, it's like porn, a little brown paper bag. And in the brown paper bag, they didn't even have the decency to send me an original. They sent me a poorly made facsimile. Here is the letter, like this. I am not conducive to the public good. I beg to differ. I believe that free speech is essential.
Was that the key phrase? What's the context? Read the paragraph that says you're not, where they conclude, therefore you're not.
I am writing to inform you about the British government's measures for excluding or deporting extremists. So here we go again, I have to say, with the art of the smear. The art of the smear, extremism. Extremism is a measure. So is extremism in pursuit of the truth a bad thing? Is extremism in pursuit of love or justice a bad thing? No, but they have taken this word, a word that is a modicum of measure, and they are applying it to me,
Right.
which is shocking to me because, look, I became activated after 9/11. If you told me that 12 years after 9/11 that I'd be banned for a country for my defense of freedom, I would have had you Baker acted. I would have had you involuntarily committed to an insane asylum. But this is the reality. Okay, back to deporting extremists under the, quote, unacceptable behavior policy. The list of unacceptable behavior covers any non-UK national, that would be me, whether in the UK or abroad, who uses any means or medium, including writing, producing, publishing, or distributing material, check. Public speaking, including preaching, well, I don't preach, but check. Running a website, bingo. And using a position of responsibility such as teacher, community, or youth leader. And that person expresses views that foment or justify terrorist violence in furtherance of particular beliefs. Now I ask you,
Hold.
This is
Whoa. They're
In
saying you're a
furtherance- they're saying
terrorist?
are you in furtherance of hold on.
She actively is initiating terrorist activity by what she says.
Because
She's the causal agent of
she's
that.
making terrorists mad.
Yeah.
So she's actually.
No, she's not making them mad. She's making them do terrorist things. It's her fault. She's the causal agent.
She's inciting us. We
She's
cannot help
inciting
ourselves.
terrorists
We
to
cannot
commit
help
jihad.
ourselves.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Muslims can't. Muslims
Foment or
can't.
justify terrorist violence in furtherance of particular. Seek to provoke others to terrorist acts. You hear this?
See?
What others are they talking about?
Crazy.
Are they talking about when they say seek others to promote terrorist acts? Are they talking about people inside your group or the jihadis, or did they not specify?
Whatever you like. It's
Yeah,
a
fill in the blank.
smorgasbord of just nonsense, is what it is. Both, perhaps they would say. Foment other serious criminal activity or seek to provoke others to serious criminal acts. And foster hatred which might lead to inter-community violence in the UK.
Aha.
The list is indicative,
That's the
but
one.
not
That's
exhaustive.
the one right there.
Exhaustive to me. Now, mind you, Tommy and Kev went on a walk. They went on a charity walk the day that we were supposed to be laying a wreath, and they were arrested. Both of them were arrested
video of
because
that,
the police said they were not allowed to walk down a street where there was a mosque. Now, is that not the
Told you.
police forcing no-go zones or
Yeah.
not? I'm asking.
That's exactly
you.
what
Oh,
it
yeah,
is.
of course.
That's exactly what it is.
UK, I think the people of the UK need to have this conversation. I don't think the people of the UK are aware of this. Now, if the people of the UK have signed on to this and want this, that's one thing. But I don't know that to be true. I see the EU, the huge miscalculation on the part of Europe after World War II. I submit to you that Europe learned nothing from World War II. What Europe came away with after World War II, after the Holocaust, was nationalism is bad. Nationalism is bad, and what we have to do is we have to form this transnational gobbledygook, usurping national sovereignty and imposing these laws, whatever they may be, EU laws, on the whole of the continent. And so when the EU now, which is in the clutches of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, is in charge, you see, this is exactly what you get. The lesson that Europe should have learned after the Holocaust was we were evil, we were monsters, and we have to be good. That's the only lesson that had to come away from the Holocaust. Instead, they slaughtered actually 12 million people. Of course, the Jews took the biggest hit, over 6 million. We now know because according to an article that ran in the New York Times, oddly philo-Semitic, there were over 43,000 concentration camps in Europe. This is enormous. I mean, this is an enormous fact because it speaks to a complicity that it wasn't just a German initiative, but Europe decided to rid the continent of its Jews, save, of course, for the Danes. Denmark protected their Jews, saved all their Jews, but Holland exterminated 90% of their Jews, 90%. So I think the lessons were not learned at all, and I think that Europe is getting what's coming to them, but freedom-loving peoples have to escape. They must escape. The Jews must escape. You see what's happening in Malmo. You see what's happening in Paris. You see what's happening, across the continent. And even the UK. The British Jews, before the ban, said, if they're banned, we have no opposition to it. So they became the very councils, the Jewish councils of pre-war, pre-Nazi Germany and Nazi Germany, who delivered their Jews to the ovens. And people don't like that I say that, but you know what? They didn't like when Hannah Arendt said it either. When she covered the Eichmann trials in Jerusalem, she was a brilliant German American political theorist. Her credentials are impeccable, and she covered for the New Yorker the Eichmann trial called Eichmann in Jerusalem, and I strongly recommend that everybody read it for the New Yorker. It's in book form as well, and of course, she blamed the Nazis. I mean, she certainly didn't. She didn't excuse them, but she also coined the phrase, and I'm sure you've heard it: the banality of evil.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, and she said that the Jews, the Jewish councils who made up the lists, who made up the list of the properties that were to be confiscated, and so on, were wrong. They were wrong. They made it easy. It wouldn't have been nearly as easy for the Germans to round up all the Jews. Now, I'm not saying it wouldn't have happened. I don't care. Her point was there should have been disobedience. Her point was there should have been resistance, and she's absolutely right. And I'm not going to argue numbers, because in my mind, one death is as egregious as a million. One life is as precious as those million. It was Stalin who said, you kill one man, it's a tragedy. You kill a million, it's a statistic. I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all. And so what have the Jews learned? Well, let me tell you, the council of deputies of British Jews have learned nothing. They aligned with annihilationists, with Islamic supremacists, and with Jew haters. Well, good luck with that, fellas. Good luck with that.
Good luck with that. You know what it sounds like to me when you see what's happening in Europe? They want to finish the job with the Jews. And they're very happy to be able to say that they're anti-Zionist and they hate Israel for political reasons, and it has nothing to do with anti-Semitism, when we know that it does. And if you look at Europe, where Jews aren't allowed to have kosher food in certain countries and things like this, and contrast that with how Europe bends over backwards, literally, for the Muslims, it's not even close. They're happy to blame it on the Muslims, the anti-Semitism that these people already are infused with.
Right.
And these Jewish councils, they're like the equivalent of the Jewish federations here in the United States. It's
and they get
the same
so insulted
thing.
when you say that. They get so insulted when you say it, but it's true. I mean, the Jews also have to look within. That's what we do.
Yeah.
What's interesting to me is that you have, it's interesting. I did a post dueling, Jewish press versus Jewicidal press. There was Jewish press in support of me, and there was Jewicidal press like the forward that, condemned me and my visit to the UK. But at least you have that discussion. I have not seen this discussion in Muslim groups. I have not seen Muslim groups coming out in support of me. There is no discussion. Under the Sharia, there is no discussion. You cannot go off the reservation, or you'll be threatened with death. And to your point, CJ, about anti-Zionism, anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism.
Exactly.
It's just the modern cloak. It's the modern argument to an age-old hate.
Yep.
Absolutely nailed it, and thank you for pointing that out.
Absolutely.
Well, here we are, folks, at 27 minutes after 5 o'clock, July 2 more days. The 4th of July, we have Pamela Geller on.
Yeah.
And on WNN 1470, TrentoVision.tv, we're talking specifically about Pamela's unique experience being barred, banned, stopped, no
you
more,
cannot
never
come
again,
here.
into the United Kingdom, into England. She's not allowed to go there for 3 to 5 years. We're going to find out what that's all about, simply because of her position in fighting the jihad movement globally, the jihad movement here, Islamic jihad, lethal Islamic jihad. And now we're talking, that's a specific issue. Now we're talking generally about the forces that are aligning against Pamela and those of us who are fighting to maintain Western civilization's pure values founded upon the Judeo-Christian worldview. And I'll add to this discussion on the Jews who have fallen down on the job, my homies on the Christian side. The Christian community worldwide, particularly in the United States, is divided into two groups. Liberal Christians who don't believe in God. These are useless human beings in terms of anything of value. They are complicit and contribute to everything wrong in the world. On the proper side of the equation, conservative Christians, which are Catholics, Protestants, some others in there, they understand good and evil, and they are the ones that need to step in and assist Jewish people more in this world. There's a little bit of effort, but part of our job is mobilizing those individuals and suppressing the liberal Christians, which are part of this green-red alliance. A lot of liberal Christians who don't believe in God are socialists, complete socialists. They love Obama, and they want to join with the Green Alliance, the Muslims, the Muslim Brotherhood, in reformulating America. That's the big issue.
It's
This
the
is such a
attraction
funny
to
thing, too.
totalitarianism.
As a Muslim, I cannot tell you how much I enjoy this and
You
the
love
humor
this
of it
stuff.
all.
I know. All right, let me reach over
You
here.
feed the crocodile last, you still get eaten.
That's true.
Right?
CJ, you have a question, but first, Pamela, what is the deal? How do you, if
Like
you
this.
want to go, look
And-
at
and the money.
Big Ben,
Yeah, and how
what do you have to
fight
do
this.
to get back in the country?
Well, first of all, I urge all of your listeners and viewers to first go to BritishBan.com. BritishBan.com.
BritishBan.com.
A group in the UK started a petition 2 days ago. There are close to 8,000 signatures now. Sign it. Just sign it. That's the first.
So we can't go too?
Yes, so that you can. Who'd want to go?
Yeah,
But BritishBan.com, and then we set up a legal fund because it is pricey. It's called BritishLegalFund.com. Please contribute. I don't care if it's $5, $10, because I haven't made the announcement yet because we're just dotting the I's and crossing the T's, and so I'm doing careful that way. But we will be pursuing this in a major way. We will be pursuing this. Much the way, for example, that Builders pursued it and won. Builders
Yeah,
pursued
what
it
did
and
we
won.
just have up there? What was that?
That was the
It was
BritishBan.com.
To,
We already
to
have
sign
that.
the petition.
Sign the
Right.
Oh,
petition.
go
and,
to
Brit-
the
and
petition.
BritishLegalFund.com.
Okay.
And as you know,
BritishLegalFund.com?
Builders, he presented questions in support of us to the Parliament, and other politicians will be getting involved. So this has become what would have been really just a sweet national show of solidarity on Armed Forces Day in the UK is now turned into an international incident.
Unbelievable. What idiots. They should have just said, oh, let her come, let her go,
And,
Oh.
you know,
CJ, you had a question?
I do, yeah. I love your article, Banned in Britain, and one sentence really stood out for me. I am banned from Mecca too.
Yeah. Well,
I
it's the
just
same
love
law.
that. It's the same thing. How could just the idea of equating the two? It
Yeah,
just sums up everything that's happening in the West right now.
That's exactly right. I'm banned in Britain. Well, I'm banned in Mecca too. I can't go there either. It's the same law. It's
People
the same
don't
law.
think
It's funny
about
because with New York Times,
Yeah.
the New York Times ran that tweet of mine like, ho, ho, ho. Isn't she, just out there? No, actually, you're the one who's out there because it's true. It's Islamic law that's keeping me out of both.
Right.
Frankly, the UK, whether they admit to it or not, is in fact enforcing the Sharia. This is a de facto Islamic state because they're keeping out freedom lovers like myself and Robert Spencer, for example, and Savage and Builders, and yet they're allowing in the most vicious annihilationist preachers. What's up with that? How do they
So what do you have to
reconcile?
do if you want to go back? I mean,
Oh, what do I have to do? Convert.
Not to Mecca, to Britain.
convert.
Convert, yeah.
and I just want to keep it all in perspective here. And this is
Pamela Geller Muhammad.
And this is, I mean, don't lose, the Pamela thing is atrocious. But keep in mind, this is what she was going to go do. She was going to go honor this man, Lee Rigby,
That's right.
who got his head chopped off by the Muslims
Yeah.
in the middle of the street. Now, do they just want to bury that story? Do they not want to talk about it? And Pamela might draw attention to it. This is a travesty that this man cannot get honored, publicly by a citizen of the United States, who I would openly applaud doing.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely. I mean,
bingo to what Mark said. I mean, that's it. That's in a nutshell. It's not about me. The fact is, a man was slaughtered, beheaded on a public street outside of London, and I'm the terrorist threat. That's the takeaway. Really, that's
Right.
the takeaway from all this. And that's exactly what they want, Mark, because if you read the petition from Hope Not Hate, that was the group that instituted the initial initiative to have me banned, they say, just let the Rigby family get on with their lives. Translation, don't talk about it anymore, okay? They're not speaking for the Rigby family. They're not
No,
speaking for
of
the
course
the
not.
devastated family of this young man, of this young soldier who was wearing a T-shirt of an organization, the counterpart of which would be Wounded Warriors.
Wounded
He was wearing like
Warriors,
a Heroes for, I forget the name of the charity, but it was a hero charity, a Wounded Warriors type charity. And he's crossing a street. And you know, I got to tell you something. If there wasn't a pedestrian standing there with a camera, they never would have said, they never would have mentioned jihad. But you have a devout Muslim, and they call him Michael. Change his name to Mujahideen. Respect it and call him by his changed name.
Yeah.
He's standing there with bloody hands. His hands are dripping with blood. He's holding an axe, and he's citing Quran. He's citing Quran. He's citing ayat. He's saying you're not safe in your homes. But I can assure you, if that pedestrian wasn't there with a camera, they just would have said, he's a madman. They would have said this had nothing to do with jihad. This is how they're disarming the people. And believe me, if they continue to do this, I got to tell you, freedom of speech is critical to a democratic society, because once you remove freedom of speech, then peaceful men have no choice but to resort to violence.
Yeah, then
and
the
I'm
whole
gonna
thing
tell
gets
you,
crazy.
Europe is at a boiling point. I mean, it's really getting very hot over there, to say the least.
And here
Very,
too.
very
Now,
hot.
who has a question?
I have a professor friend of mine in California. He wrote an article shortly after Boston, and he said that Islamophobia is a greater threat to national security than Islamic terrorism. And this absolutely, you have exemplified what my professor friend has written about. Thank you very much.
Well, it's true. Islamophobia, which again is a fictional construct. It's a word that was created as a thought-crushing device in order to silence critics of Islam. And in order to advance Islam, one must silence the critics. One must advance this myth of Islamic victimhood. You're seeing it now. You're seeing the Bosnia. Bosnia was the same thing. I mean, it was a war started by Muslims. And it became a tale of victimhood, and went so far as for the U.S. to intervene on behalf of the Muslims against the Christians. We're seeing that now in Burma.
It's Syria too is all over again. Mark, you got a question?
Once you see a Buddhist monk with a gun, wait a minute, and then the cover of Time has a Buddhist monk with over the headline, "The Face of Terror."
Yeah.
And this is not The Onion. This is the mainstream. This is the media, and this is a psyop. This is brainwashing. This is Goebbels' Ministry of Propaganda. It is the same thing.
And it's getting so ridiculous that hopefully people are starting to wake up. Mark, you got a question?
Yes, I got a question. What disturbs me more is I can understand the UK in their liberal leftist manner barring people.
You can or you can't?
No, I actually, because I understand how they think,
okay.
is to bar people like Pamela and whoever they want to, because they just don't agree with their philosophy. What I cannot fathom to me is why nobody in the mainstream press here on our side, even Fox News or anybody else, has not picked up on Pamela. So, I mean, when I first heard about this story, this outraged me.
Yeah.
And I know you go on Hannity and everybody else. Have they actually told you, no, I am not going to talk about this story, or no, Pamela, don't bring this up?
They don't call me for that story. They call me for Egypt. They don't call me for that story. Nobody has. And I will tell you, it's not surprising, because they don't talk about this in an honest manner. They don't talk. I mean, I was watching Megyn Kelly talk about Egypt, and she had a gentleman on, and he's a respected fella. And he's saying, well, you know, Obama's plan of turning over, you know, Egypt and Libya to moderate Islamists. I'm thinking to myself, is this guy kidding? You know, I mean, how can people possibly come to a conclusion that's logical and rational when they get this kind of garbage? And it is a complicated subject, and you need good information. And so I will tell you that we're blacklisted. By and large, you don't see Robert and me on television very much. You really don't. You never see, I mean, in my opinion, you know, Ibn Warq is the world's leading scholar on Islam. I don't see him ever. I never see Ayan. I never see Wafa. I mean, I see the trimmers. I see the people that will say this much and no more. But the American media is just as complicit. Now, in the UK media, not one not the Independent, not the Guardian, not the Mail, not one leading British paper called me anything but anti-Muslim, Islamophobic in the headline, anti-Muslim blog, anti-Muslim campaign, anti-Islamic, Islamophobic. Excuse me. I am counter-jihad. I am anti-jihad. Repeat after me. Watch my lips. Never. Because it's all about advancing this narrative. And so by the time the person reads the article, there's no comment from me. My detractors are there front and center. I mean, it's hard for them to see through it. You have to learn how to read media speak. Media speak is a language all its own. When you see Asian, you know it's Muslim. When you see immigrant youth, this is in Europe.
Yeah.
When you see immigrant youth,
Hooligan.
when you see youth. Here in America, there's media speak. They don't use Asian. But I believe that's coming. What you will see now is you'll see Moroccan, you'll see Algerian, you'll see Tunisian. And I submit to you that their geography is as relevant as the color of their socks.
Right.
It means nothing. It's the ideology. It's not the geography. So this is a huge problem, and that's why what you're doing, Tom, and CJ, and the crazy Imam, and J. Mark, I mean, is so critical, because you know, it is David versus Goliath, but David did win, and we are telling the truth. And we are telling the truth. We are telling the truth. Now, you know, Churchill said, and he was actually paraphrasing an old axiom, that a lie is halfway around the world before the truth gets its pants on.
Right.
And that's really true. And so we can't give up. You never give up. You never give in. And these moments like this, where I was just going to lay a wreath, becomes a teaching moment. The time in Tennessee, you know, you had me on to talk about Tennessee.
Yep.
And that was, you saw anti-Muslim, Muslim outreach event disrupted by anti-Muslim bigots, you know. But the fact was, if it wasn't for that coverage, people wouldn't know that the DOJ vowed to criminalize postings on social media that criticized Islam. So it's an ugly war. It's a disgusting war. But we can't whine about that, because all is fair in love and war. And so they have the field. But we saw in the Civil War, what was that? Appomattox, you know, they have the field too with that one. I mean, it doesn't matter. We're right, and we're righteous, and we're going to win, and we can't give up. If there's one free man standing, there's a shot. We have a shot. Is it overwhelming now? It absolutely is.
Yes. But we'll keep fighting.
Is it like Czechoslovakia? It's after. I submit to you that it's, you know, they said if only Hitler had been stopped in Czechoslovakia.
Right.
Well, you know, if only Morsi had been stopped.
Yep.
If only in Libya. I think that we're past the Czechoslovakian moment, but so we are. And so we forge on.
All right, let's do
Well,
this.
when it comes to
CJ
the-
has one question on England, and then we want to get your input on this crazy situation in Egypt for sure.
Yeah, definitely. My question about England is: did you write any letters to the editor to respond to the headlines and the smears against you?
Repeatedly. And then we run
Were
the
any of
lack
them?
of response at Atlas and Jihad Watch, and we always do. Even in America, I mean, Robert has a stalker. He has a hate stalker. Nathan Lean is a hate stalker. He works with Reza Aslan, who's a communist, and everywhere Robert goes, Nathan Lean writes. Now, understand, the Washington Post runs him, the New York Times runs him, all of the major media outlets run him. He always works on getting Robert canceled, of course, because Robert, here's a man who's written 12 books. Here is a scholar, New York Times bestsellers. I mean, he's the real deal. So you have to destroy this man, and this is Nathan Lean's objective, his reason for living. And he's attempting to get him canceled now from a homeschool conference, Colby Academy, in California. And every time he runs an editorial, Robert runs a counter. We repeatedly ask, he's now in the middle of asking the Huffington Post to run the rebuttal. It's defamation, it's libel. Now he can say, why don't you sue? Because in the United States of America, we have free speech. And so you can say a lot of things about a public figure. That's just the way it is. And I don't care about that so much. But to shut us down and not allow us to respond, to not allow a rebuttal, that's egregious. That's monstrous. And so we have this all the time. I mean, this is a big problem. We write it for American Thinker will run our stuff, but if Washington Post is running it, then run our rebuttal. If the New York Times or the LA Times or This is a constant problem that we have. It's constant. I can't tell you how many Jewish newspapers I have written, including Haaretz and the Jerusalem Post. I wrote to Steve Lind, the editor of the Jerusalem Post, to stop running anti-Muslim in their headlines when referring to me.
Right.
I'd like them to cite my work with Muslim girls. I'd like them to cite my work helping Muslim girls in America who are in devout households, who want to lead a more Western life, who don't want to wear the hijab, escape a household where their life is in danger. They never talk about, is that anti-Muslim? I don't think so. So again, these are the odds. This is the obstacles that we're fighting, and we just have to find a way around them. And that's why TrentoVision and the bloggers that will cover it. You know, even the bloggers don't want to cover this because it's toxic. You see what happens to politicians that cover it? They get destroyed. They're racist, Islamophobes. Right away, the leftist Islamic machine goes into high gear and destroys. You know, that's why guys like Louis Gohmert, he's a giant.
I love him.
It's great.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at Nathan Lean's book, The Islamophobia Industry, How the Right Manufactures Fear of Muslims.
Yeah.
Nathan
He's-
Lean
well-
with Esposito, and he's got,
Yeah.
Oh,
you know,
Esposito.
he's got
Esposito.
Karen Armstrong supporting him, the Jordan Times. Yeah, interesting guy for sure. We may have to take a look at him, try to get him on the show. We may have to do that.
Oh,
So-
yeah, that would be good. Why
I'm
don't you have
sure
him
he
meet-
would be happy to be on your show,
Ask
Trento.
him
I'm
to
sure.
debate Robert Spencer. That would be a great.
Ooh, that would be a great.
Yeah,
We'll do it
we'll
live.
try to put that together. We were just trying to get Robert, but we weren't able to get him. So we're going to stay with you, Egypt.
I can get him, but we'd be too short right
Too short
now.
right now.
Yeah,
Can
we're
I
gonna
can I
work
start
with
off
you.
with a question?
You
Yeah,
should
you
get
did
him.
it.
You
Yeah.
should get him because you should.
I'll bring-
If you can get him, Imam Raouf over there. If you can get him, get him. 'Cause, he has an interesting perspective on England too, and I think that I think it would be helpful. If you can't, I'm here until 3 because I have a
Okay.
3 o'clock radio show. But I think it would be
Can
good
you
if
get
you could get him.
I think so.
And then you can continue them on another day. But the idea of
I'll
Lean
email him.
and Spencer, I mean, that
Yeah, we'll
is
put both of
that's
you in.
Muhammad Ali. And,
That's right. That's
and,
right.
Yeah, not Frazier, maybe
I-
more like.
We're working on getting him. CJ has a question for you.
Yeah, I
and
have
then,
a question about Egypt and these other Muslim countries in the Arab Spring. You were saying a little while ago, we put Morsi in, et cetera, et cetera. What else is there? If you're talking about these Muslim countries, it's going to be a Morsi, or it's going to be a Gaddafi, or it's going to be a Mubarak. I mean,
Okay.
or
Well,
it's going to
first,
be a king or a potentate or a sheik or an emir.
Okay, first of all, let me say this. I certainly would prefer Mubarak, hands down. Also, there's a lack of statecraft to all. Is a revolution like Egypt could never have happened if there hadn't been some liberal reforms. And what you don't know is that when the Congress took control in 2006, the liberal reforms under Bush had stopped. Now, how do I know this? Because I conducted an interview in 2007 with a very popular Egyptian blogger called Egyptian Sand Monkey. We don't talk anymore because we had a falling out during the revolution. I said it was Muslim Brotherhood. He said it wasn't. He got really mad at me and we stopped talking. Well, you know how that one worked out. But the fact is that he said that Mubarak had been making liberal reforms. But when Pelosi got in, those reforms stopped. If you remember, she went to Syria, and
That's right.
nobody really knew what she was doing in Syria. That was a very smelly visit. But we do know that after she left, reformers and dissidents in Syria were arrested.
Right.
So understand, all of these things don't happen in a vacuum. It didn't just happen like that. The Brotherhood got in. That's not what happened. Okay. So the liberal reforms that were being made stopped. That was a mistake. Unrest began, and then you had a president come in.
Hey, Pamela, we have Robert. We don't
good.
have the. We need more donations to have 2 people on at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Listen, Egypt is unfolding. Egypt will continue to unfold. I'd be happy to be back on.
Yes.
But let me turn over the stage, the TrentoVision stage, to Robert. And thank you so much for your support and having me on. And remember,
Pamela.
BritishBand.com and
And
Let's give Pamela
BritishLegalFund.com.
a-
Assalamu alaikum, she devil.
all right.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Pamela Geller at 49 minutes. after. But she saved a few minutes for Robert Spencer, I believe. Do we have Robert up and center yet? No, he's coming on. Robert Spencer is...
I have been watching Jihad Watch.
Yeah. Robert's the
for
godfather
years.
of the educational movement in the United States on Islam, and the godfather of the counter-jihad movement, that is recognizing that Sharia-compliant Islam is incompatible, as Hassan Mack, Anjem Chowdhury partner, said a week or two ago. He told us here in a debate with Christopher Logan out of New York that, what the heck is that thing?
Oh, that's really good.
Oh man, wow.
Okay, we got Robert on.
He told us that Islam is incompatible with the West, but now we have one of America's top scholars on Islam and the assistant, the leader, the partner, the confidant.
Is he the true terrorist? Is he the true terrorist?
He's another terrorist that
He's an international cow chip disturber.
that the United Kingdom was too frightened to let him come in. Hi, Robert. How are you? You're with Tom and the rest
Hi,
of the
Robert. Thank
Howdy,
you.
howdy, howdy. How you doing?
Just great.
We just had Pamela for about 40 minutes, and she's a trip. She's a trip, as you know. Put into perspective for us the implication in the West of what happened to you and her being denied entrance into England.
Can he hear us?
I think
He
he-
looks
Robert?
frozen.
Who has said that jihad is the smashing of skulls and the tearing of the infidels from limb to limb. He's quoted the Jew hatred, the genocide of the Jews hadith of Muhammad, where Muhammad says that the end times will not come until Muslims kill Jews. And the Jews will hide behind trees, and the trees will cry out, "O Muslim, there's a Jew hiding behind me, come and kill him." And he has given directions on how best to beat your wife most efficiently. And he was in London last week. No problem. And so the moral of the story is this. If you say that Islam teaches warfare against unbelievers and you're for it, you can get in. If you say Islam teaches wife beating and you're for it, you can get in. If you say Islam teaches Jew hatred and you're for it, you can get in. But if you're against it and you say those things, no way, then you will be right here in my office.
Hey, Robert, look, all of us in here, CJ, everybody here, we understand this is the state of affairs. For a new viewer, new listener, somebody just getting involved in this whole thing, how the hell do you make sense out of what you just said?
You make sense of it by understanding that the British government has surrendered. Not the British people, but the British government. The British government clearly is not interested in standing up to the jihad terrorists. They are terrorized themselves. Allah has struck terror into their hearts in accordance with the Quran, where he says he will strike terror into the hearts of the enemies of Allah, and he's done it. Theresa May, David Cameron, they're terrified. They are afraid, and so they think we have to give them whatever they want, and maybe they won't hurt us. It won't work, of course, but that's what they're thinking. That's the only thing that makes sense of this.
So there are still patriots and brave people like Tommy Robinson, Kevin Carroll, and others in the UK. Coming over to this side, what do people need to do? We only have a few minutes left in the show. We're going to have you on for a complete analysis. But we got pretty good overview from Pamela of your adventures and the situation. What are the takeaway lessons for good Americans that are awakening to the jihad? What do they need to know, and what do they need to do to stop this?
Well, I'd say the main thing we have to do right now in the time that we have left, not in the program, but in the time we have left as a civilization, is try to raise awareness as much as possible, because most people still have no idea that any of this is happening. And so we need to, everybody who is hearing this needs to go out and tell 5 other people today about the jihad threat. And they will say, well, you're a nut, you're crazy, you're a racist, you're a bigot, you're a hate monger. And you have to keep talking and get past that and get the facts out there, because we are being lied to. The big lie is taking hold on a massive national and international scale. And if it prevails, then quite simply all is lost. And so above all, wherever you are, whoever you are, whatever your circumstances, you have to take it upon yourself today to tell the truth about the nature and magnitude of this threat, because if you don't do it, it ain't going to get done.
Good grief. And it's really interesting because I think Robert Spencer with jihadwatch.org and Pamela
You gotta
Geller
go
with
to Jihad
and
Watch,
Pamela
ladies and
Geller
gentlemen.
with Atlas Shrugs and Tom Trento with TrentoVision. It's like we're recording the end of civilization as we know it, if nothing
Yeah.
else. Even if we're not successful, at least we're leaving a record of
yeah.
truthfulness of what actually happened.
And we
So
know the government will have it because they're recording.
exactly, and there's going to be copies of it everywhere. I have to tell you, Robert, really quickly, I love on your front page today the headline with Egypt Islamic supremacist protesters hate Morsi for not going to war with Israel, and there's a big picture of a Star of David, a Jewish star, on top of an American flag with Morsi's picture in the middle. If
That's
you go to
exactly what they were-
That was actually
jihadwatch.org,
yesterday. That was yesterday.
sorry,
as well.
yesterday.
Today is
check
July
it out.
2nd.
Well, no,
what is the
but it's
context
still
of it?
on the front page.
That's
because
exactly
if you
what they were
scroll
doing to
down-
Mubarak 2 years ago.
Because
Yep.
we'd love to root for these guys. We'd love to say these people are the anti-Muslim Brotherhood secularists, just like we were promised originally in the Arab Spring. Some of them
Thank
are,
you.
but that Jew hatred is still there, and there are people who are just angry with Morsi for not going fast enough toward Islam and Sharia.
Right.
All right, well, we absolutely are going to have you back, because this is a very confusing situation right now in Egypt to a lot of people, and all the polling, the professional polling, Poll and all, Pew and all these others. I mean, these are people, 60, 65 million, that the vast majority, 75, 85%, want a Sharia-compliant country. So why are they, millions of them, trying to throw out the guy that's going to deliver a Sharia-compliant country?
Because
He
he didn't
hasn't
do
gone
it
to war
fast
with Israel
enough.
yet.
Yeah, I have a quick question for
He
Robert.
what? Would you say, Robert?
Because he hasn't gone to war with Israel yet, and that's
Yeah.
what they really want.
That's, yeah. Well, Mark.
Well, any consolation, people like you, people like Tom, and all we were all saying back when it was a Muslim Brotherhood revolution, back when Mubarak was ousted. Now
Yeah.
the mainstream media agrees with us.
Yeah, right.
FYI, they're about a year behind us. So,
I don't see them lining up to say, hey, you were right and we were wrong.
No, I don't see that either.
but just the prediction. I'm predicting that there's going to be a bloody violence in the street, a lot of beheadings. It's going to get much worse before it gets any better. What do you think it's going to go down that road, or do you think?
Yeah, I do. Because it's going to be the Salafis against the Brotherhood. And in other words, the bad guys who are very, very bad versus the bad guys who are even worse. And I don't see any good outcome there.
All right, Robert, let me introduce as we close now. This is CJ. You know CJ. Mark's over there. But I don't think you've met
We met
our,
during Rivka Barry.
Yes, we
I
have.
don't think you've met our Imam Abdullah. I fool you, you fool. Say hello, Imam.
Hello, Mr. Spencer, my devilish friend. I have a quick question for you. I asked this of Pam Geller earlier.
The she-devil, right?
The she-devil. I asked she-devil earlier. And I had a professor in California write that Islamophobia is a greater risk to national security than Islamic terrorism.
Wasn't that Hatem? Old Hatem Bazian?
I believe it was. Yes, how do
Yes,
you
it
know my
was.
friends? We have same friends, no?
Yeah.
He knows.
His
All
name,
right.
of course, is Hatem Bazian, but I can't help but call him Hatem.
We've banged heads with Hatem
Yes.
up in USC, I think it was. one of those
USC,
places.
yeah.
He's an idiot.
So anyway, yes, old Hatem Bazian, yes.
All right, well, folks, we got to say
What about
goodbye.
it? Yes, he said Islamophobia was worse.
Yep. We got to say goodbye right now. It's the end of the show. Robert Spencer, Pamela, July 2nd, couple of minutes to 6 o'clock. Robert, thank you very much. You do
Thank you.
fabulous work. Let's give Robert a round of applause. Take
Assalamu
care,
alaikum.
Robert. All right, goodbye, everybody. We're
Walaikum assalam.
good show.
Good
To
show.
have Pamela and Robert on analyzing the jihad is good stuff. So,
Yeah.
all right, we'll see you all tomorrow.
Yeah,
Wednesday.
we get a real live atheist on the show tomorrow.
Coming down.
We got ourselves an atheist.
Yeah.
That's right.
We're gonna talk to him, see what's going on. But as for right now, let's all say goodbye. Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
See ya.
Allah Akbar.